If I could get a roll call, please.
Commissioner Mercer? Here. Commissioner Yates?
Here.
Commissioner Dollison?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong?
Here.
And Mayor Dantzler.
Here. Okay, we have two presentations. One's going to be MLK, and the other's for Arbor Day. Those will both be Monday night. Minutes. Let's get to reorganization. Consent agenda. Anybody have any questions on anything, stop me. One water master plan. T, you want to just kind of go through these real quick and hit the high points?
I can do that. I also have staff prepared to speak on any of these as well, Mr. Mayor. Give them a chance to explain their projects, but.
Okay.
So the first one of these One Water Master Plan Phase 3, this is, as it would say, the third phase of that effort. We've been working on this with Black & Veatch since 2019. This final phase really focuses on the land development side of things, so making amendments and modifications to the ULDC and other guiding documents within Eric Labby's shop that will align with the One Water objectives. Also does some of the capital improvement planning and shores up the water demand projections and further support for our water use permits.
Okay, Commissioners, any questions or comments on the One Water Master Plan Phase 3? Rate study.
So we're going to contract with Raftellus again. This will be for $70,250 to do a review and modification to our connection fees for water and sewer. As you know, costs associated with expansion of our system associated with the PRWC, AWS systems, as well as the need to expand our existing infrastructure, wastewater treatment plant, all that. That's what the expansion fees are designed to assist in funding. So that will be updated to reflect those upcoming projects. We will also be doing a new rate study that focuses again on what our operating services are and debt, outstanding debt, our bonds, replacement renewal, and the like. That'll also factor in for the promotion of our water conservation. So Gary expects this to be done 120 days is what the fact sheet reflects. So we'll be bringing that back to you in final form later this spring once that work's complete. Last one we did was 2021, I believe it was.
Was it 21 the last time we hired them? Was it on this particular, this is a rate study, this is not.
This is a rate study and connection fee, so two separate things. They both have rates to them. You know, they're both expenses that are paid. The connection fees are those one-time charges that are paid by the developer on the front end, and then the rates obviously apply to all of our customers.
Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong.
On page 2, item 2.4, which what it's talking about is the including available PRWC information, and with the time frame that you're talking about, we're not going to have the substantial relevant, well, maybe that's not the word. Help me out, because we are not going to get the
we won't have the final GMP until later this year.
in the summer, right?
That is correct. We will have a new business plan presented at the next PRWC meeting in January. It will include most of the costs. There's still some unknowns out there. The GMP is one of those. But this will get us in that right direction. The one reason we need this rate study is, one, we want to go ahead and take advantage of new connection fees to, capture some of that growth we're experiencing, and we talked about last fall. But the other is also, we have a WIFIA loan application that is in the process, all that's due around December 1st of this year. So this will be in support of that WIFIA application also.
Okay. And just one final question. So once this is developed, we probably won't address this until when? When will we have the final?
When will the rates come back to you?
Yeah.
6 months?
Probably, it's approved Monday night, June.
Yes, June, but then you'll have a 90-day period after that for, advertisement and before you could enact them. So you're talking, probably October 1 for a potential implementation date, I would think, somewhere around,
Okay.
around there.
All right. Thanks.
And these rate studies are absolutely critical that we do versus trying to do it in-house or just calling around and asking everybody what they're charging.
Yes.
Yeah, we need that consultant to really provide the justification for the rates. We don't want to put that burden on staff.
Well, and from a legal standpoint, we want to make sure that whatever rates you all set are in strict conformance with the municipal rate setting protocols in Florida. And I know Commissioner Mercer is familiar with that, but you got to have, empirical data that's qualified, et cetera, those kind
Oh,
of
that
things.
rational nexus, you got to have
Yeah.
a reason to raise them.
Correct.
So-
And that's something that, as Mr. Hubbard has suggested, it would be best to rely on experts for that.
And the connection fees certainly play into that as well, because they have to be tied to what your capital improvement schedule is.
Well, we had a nice discussion about that a couple months ago. I know we did, and this is probably the next part of that nexus, so. Okay. Are you good?
I'm good.
Anybody else? Okay.
11C, Mayor and Commissioners, this is just amending the interlocal agreement that we have with Polk County. As you know, our bond financing took place in December, and those rates came back at a better rate than what was originally contemplated in the interlocal agreement, so this just amends the debt amortization schedule.
Right.
And that'll go to the county commission, I believe, the day after our city commission meeting. Design build on Motor Pool Road. So as you know, we have a contract with Whitehead Construction for the design build services on the Lake Conine Nature Park, and that contract also contemplated any needed vehicular or pedestrian improvements that would align with accessing that site. So Motor Pool Road is that primary access for both vehicular and pedestrian connections, as you can see. This is intended to create or complete the design work to improve Motor Pool Road with a pedestrian and trail connection between the nature park and the Chain of Lakes Trail, as well as out to US 17, and also make vehicular improvements to Motor Pool Road and really just enhance that road from a structural, drainage, traffic calming, and landscaping standpoint. It is contemplated within this design work to look at a potential roundabout, I believe in the general area of Motor Pool Road, Avenue Y, and Palm Drive. That will be explored in concept form only, and if it's deemed desirable to move forward with including that, then we'll do a change order to factor in that actual design. This is total design task totals $163,893. You may recall that we had contemplated doing this under a CDBG program, brought that to you a few years back. There was, in the fall of 2022, administratively, we redirected those funds for CDBG to align with the Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center project and took money from that project of an equal amount to put towards Motor Pool Road. So it was a wash in an effort to align all of our CDBG dollars into one project for project management purposes. It just makes it a lot cleaner for the staff and the county to manage that.
Pete, would you help me understand the different colors here, what they represent? The yellow, the green, and the red?
Actually, I'll ask Andy Palmer to come forward because he's the lead on this.
What are we, Andy, what I'm asking for is we're getting ready to spend $163,000. Are we getting the yellow, the blue, or the red?
Good evening, Andy Palmer. The yellow is the primary corridor where the bulk of the improvements are envisioned to be constructed and designed. The blue is an alternative, which would, as a pedestrian corridor, one of the things that we looked at, it was when we did our initial walkthrough with our consultants, it was amazing to see the number of people who are actually out on using Motor Pool Road as a pedestrian corridor to get from the Avenue Y neighborhood area over to US 17. And so as we were there, one of the things that we looked at as an alternate was potentially using one or two of the cemetery roads to double as a pedestrian corridor, which amazingly enough, they already are. So that blue is just is an alternate. So through the design process, we'll explore if that is a viable option, or if we should use one of the other roads or do a standalone path. And the red is a connection point between the, if we do the blue as an alternate out to where the main path would be. So that was just to show in the proposal, they had split out some survey work and where some of the alternates would be as we go through the design work. But ultimately, the bulk of the improvements will be in the yellow and the red, and the blue will be explored as alternates for pedestrian ways.
Well, if the blue is already being used, there's not much money to be spent there, right? Or,
It would primarily be probably some paving, repaving, and some pedestrian markings.
okay. But the bulk of this money is going to go in the yellow.
Yes.
Okay.
Will there be any sidewalks, or it's just,
Yes, with the new sidewalk on US 17, and then the Chain of Lakes Trail, between US 17 and the Chain of Lakes, and really where the project kind of goes and I'll say goes north-south, that is where we're exploring, instead of doing a sidewalk, using the cemetery road as a pedestrian way, so it would double as a cemetery road, and we would do that with, it appears wide enough to do that with striping, and again, resurfacing it. So we would have, in a lot of places, you'll see a striped pedestrian and bikeway, and then there's a separated travel lane as well. And then as you get into the Chain of Lakes Trail area, that would converge into a side path, which would be essentially a wide sidewalk, which would take you over and connect into the Lake Conine site.
That's what I want.
yeah, I was just, on Motor Pool Road itself, I travel that road quite a bit, and unless it's extremely wider, then what happens is that if there are two vehicles coming and there's somebody on the road, because one of those vehicles is going to have to stop, because generally people are not going to get off into the grass.
Right, understood. And I think a traditional sidewalk, again, a traditional sidewalk might not be constructed, more so as we're talking about more like a side path is what it would be called. Something that would be something similar to like what we just did on Avenue C southwest, where it's a paved, where the sidewalk's paved. It's just a wider sidewalk. It's not necessarily
More of a multi-use trail.
Yes.
Okay.
So, and Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong, you may recall, when we did our easements with Duke for their location along Motor Pool Road, when they put in the tall power lines and transmission lines, we had factored into that the need to be able to put pedestrian corridors within those easements.
Oh, okay.
Knowing that, we had these concepts in mind for many years of how do we safely move pedestrians along that corridor.
Okay.
With the significant increase in the traffic on that road with the, I guess, where the trail comes through there, any safety concerns there?
Well, I think certainly improvements to the road overall will factor in safety concerns, enhancements throughout. So if that needs to be shouldered in some way or widened in some way where it can, where the pedestrian access points are. Also point out that where that 90-degree turn is there on Motor Pool Road, right where the trail comes through, keep in mind we've got a developer that's looking at that old Florida Caribbean Distillers property to put in improvements there, and would likely, when that goes through, if they're going to have access off of Motor Pool Road in any fashion, have to make improvements along that corridor as well, so.
So I think those were some of the challenges that they were having.
Right.
And the concept designs, as we move forward in the design process, we will have, a large part of this will be traffic calming, potentially a stop at the Chain of Lakes Trail, raised crosswalks, traffic calming, bump outs, even potentially some slight realignment where it does that 90-degree turn. So all that'll be factored into the design, and then as we look at the concepts on the roundabout, and we will bring that back for updates throughout the process.
Okay. What else? Anybody else? Okay.
Next item is the purchase of emergency equipment. Chief Brandon's here if there's any specific questions on this, but this is simply to outfit our new vehicles that we've purchased, the Interceptor vehicles, with the necessary police equipment, and that goes on six of those units, and on the other 4, they'll be equipped as K9 units. So this is, we buy the vehicles. If we go about having the dealer install all that, it takes a lot longer for us to get the vehicles and get them into service. We need to get a little faster with that, so we've got a means to do that. And this is a budgeted expense within our capital depletion account.
How many K9 units do we actually have? You can yell from the back. I just. 4? Okay, so you got 4 and you're getting rid of them, getting 4 new ones.
Yes.
Okay.
Vehicles, not dogs.
Right.
Right?
But we do still need to get one dog. We have a vacancy we're going to fill soon.
You use German Shepherds or those Malamutes or Malahoots?
Typically, we use German Shepherds. The last one we got was a Malinois
Okay.
Shepherd mix. So
Okay.
they both have their given good points. Malinois usually last longer health-wise, but are a little more high-strung at times. So.
Okay.
Next item, Commissioners, is the purchase of self-contained breathing apparatus. This is equipment used by the fire services. This is purchase of there's 33 CBAs that we presently have that are going to be replaced with more modern equipment. I will note that this is a capital depletion item, something that we budget for to replace those per schedule. And the ones that we are replacing, the decommissioned items, will be donated to Ridge Technical Center in accordance with our procurement manual that will be used within their fire training program they have.
Cool. Resolution R24. Well, let me ask questions. Anybody have any questions on the scuba?
Well, there's no U in it, because they're not going underwater.
Yeah. Trying to set up for a nice joke, but you
I know.
killed him in the first act. Anyway,
Well,
I was going to see if anybody knew what scuba stood for, and then I was going to. On the resolutions, R2404, Lake Maud Park, Winter Haven Rec Center.
this is an interesting one, and Katrina and Julie and Andy can maybe offer some additional context to this, but during the process of really going through the renovation plans for Winter Haven Recreation and Cultural Center, one of the biggest concerns the community had was how do we preserve the history, the rich history of Florence Villa and of recreation in that area? What do we do with the facilities that are going away, particularly the Tuggerson baseball field? Out of those meetings over the past really 2.5 years, a kind of historical preservation committee was established. It's noted within your fact sheet. Patricia Hunter, Maxie Hunter, Commissioner Dawson is a standing member there, Pat Salary, Abdullah Al-Khatib, and Val Baker, along with staff from Parks, Recreation, and Culture and my office. They have been meeting for several months now. And how do we capture that history within the building that's going to be built, but also what do we do with some of the naming of this facility? And what came back from that group was really three requests. One, that the double gymnasium that will be built in the new recreation center be recognized as the Otis Birdsong Gymnasium, given his prominence in basketball and as a role model within our greater community. That the Lake Maud Park, the recreation park, which opened in 2018, be renamed in recognition of Reuben Williams and be dubbed the Reuben Williams Sports Complex. Reuben Williams is a significant member of the community in the recreation world and in mentoring and molding youth. Many of the folks that we've come across talk about the influence that Mr. Williams had as a recreation director and overseeing much of what happened in the Florence Villa community in the, I would say, 60s, 70s, if not earlier.
Earlier.
And then within the Lake Maud Park, to dub the new baseball fields, which are scheduled to be opened, Andy, I'm looking to you, April, March this year. They're under construction right now. You'll get to see that when we line up for the MLK Parade, to recognize those as the James Schoolboy Tuggerson baseball fields at Reuben Williams Sports Complex. We vetted this out within the community this past summer. We spoke about it in our public meetings. We did some surveying online. We took computers and hard copy paper out to the facility when we did those public meetings. We pushed it through social media and the website. In your fact sheet, we note that naming of the gymnasium, 84% of those that responded either agreed or strongly agreed. On the Lake Maud overall naming, as well as the baseball fields, 88% either agreed or strongly agreed. So it's the first time we've brought a naming recommendation to you, and it doesn't come from staff, it comes from members of the community. Staff certainly supports this, and I think that on Monday, we'll have some members of that historical focus group on hand as well.
How big was the sample group of these, those are pretty high percentages. Is it 10 people or 100 people or 1,000 people? Or how
Katrina,
many
can you
people would
speak to
say?
that?
We had 35 online and about 15 or 20 on paper that actually submitted when given the opportunity.
And we probably had, I would guess, when we did our last public meeting there, 60 plus that we presented that idea to. Now, obviously, not all of those responded into it in the survey form, but yeah, I think that overall there's a support for certainly. Tuggerson and Birdsong are already recognized there, and this is kind of aligning their recognitions with the improvements that are being made between the two facilities and giving some recognition long overdue to Mr. Williams, who so much of his influence was in that direct immediate area we're talking about.
We don't have to get permission from people that are still alive. Like, I'm thinking about Otis. I'm sure he would agree, but do we have to get people's permission to name something after them if they're while still alive?
Yeah, probably so. I would think that would be, maybe it's not a legal requirement of such, but I think that it would be in our best interest to do so. But I think in reaching out, I would want to have the consensus of the commission to do so ahead of that. And I don't know, I've not had a chance to speak with Mr. Birdsong. I don't know if Mayor Pro Tem has, but
I have,
He says go for it.
yes.
Okay. Well, I knew he would, but I mean, I feel like out of respect, we should at least ask.
Yeah, yeah.
For people that are still breathing, you know what I mean? Clearly. Okay. Anybody else got questions or? All right, thank you, T. Next,
Sir.
we got the 12B.
12B LAP agreement. Brittany, you want to speak to this one? This is a complete street LAP agreement.
Yes, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. So in 2019, the City of Winter Haven applied for funding through FDOT through the TPO for a grant to begin design on a complete street project along 6th Street Southwest Those project limits would be along 6th Street Southwest from Avenue G to US 17. I believe there's a map here which shows that's near venue 650 all the way up to about the Arrington area. So with that, the design plan would include things like traffic calming, landscape enhancements, drainage improvements, which could be in the form of the rain gardens, and we would also add some additional pedestrian infrastructure that doesn't exist today. FDOT has agreed to provide us with just shy of $115,000, $114,999 to be exact. In order to receive that funding, we will be required to enter into a local area program agreement, a LAP agreement. And so kind of the key points in that agreement right now are that we'll be reimbursed $114,999 for the design of the improvements. We must complete design by June 30th of 2026. So we're going to go ahead and get a jump on that now. We have to meet all of the federal and state auditing requirements and follow all of the procurement requirements as well. So currently, there's no financial impact to the city unless we were to exhaust the funds allocated to us by the DOT.
Mayor and Commissioners, this is kind of a unique one. That area has evolved quite a bit over the years, and to me, this is somewhat of what we experienced on 3rd Street between, say, Avenue A Southwest and Avenue G, the area where you have the BB&T Bank. We did a complete street project on that in 2011, thereabout, and it spurred on so much economic impact in there. I often talk that was $1 million investment of public money into an area that ultimately is going to see over $100 million of reinvestment by the private sector. Improving this corridor in advance of us building our new water utilities administrative facilities out at Bradco and freeing up this land for future probably multifamily development, as well as what's happening with Venue 650 and some of those other properties around there. This is getting out ahead of it.
Okey-doke.
Thank you,
Brittany.
Thank you.
Commissioners, any questions for staff while she's still up there? Okay. Thank you. 12C.
12C deals with a FEMA grant, and I know Dustin is here as well. He and Brittany are both well-versed on this, but you may recall that when we had Hurricane Ian come through, we had so much rain leading up to that, and then we got a lot of rain from Ian. Lake Elbert's one of those lakes that doesn't have a natural discharge into another body of water, so our lake levels got very high. I think many of you were contacted by residents along that corridor of Lake Elbert Drive and the surrounding area that their docks are underwater. The improvements they have lakeside are impacted by that. In the 60s, there was a system put in play to transfer water from Lake Elbert to Lake Otis, due south along this corridor of 9th Street. Mayor, you may recall I don't know whose home it is now, the Susaks used to live right there on that corner. Behind that house in the corner of that lake, it's almost like an old inverted well of sorts that there would be a pump that would have been installed on this side of Lake Elbert and pushed water over there. Well, everything was built except for the pump. And it took us 60 some odd years to really put that into play. This team, when this happened, borrowed a pump system from utilities and pushed water through there, and were able to bring that lake level down. So this is a FEMA grant to actually purchase the pump necessary to install there that will give us a emergency, exit plan for Lake Elbert should we get in that same situation in the future. It's a 75%, 25% split with FEMA. Staff estimates that pump and installation to be around $94,000, of which the city would be accountable for about $23,500.
I used to live on 9th Street, so it's underneath the road, the drain pipe is?
So the structure is on the lakeside, is my understanding, and then we would install the pump, but the pipe running from Elbert to Lake Otis is underneath 9th Street, yes.
So we're not going to tear up 9th Street, the pipe's already there.
Nope, everything is already installed. We would just be purchasing the pump and retrofitting it to the current system that's there.
There's like a kind of a culvert box right there on the lake across from 9th Street. And interesting, when Dale Smith was here, and he's kind of our historian for all this old infrastructure, that pipe actually flowed at one time in 2004 during the series of hurricanes that we had, that the lake level got to a point where it actually was the only time that water ever flowed through there. But no one ever, knew if it was functioning since then. And when Ian hit and that water was so high, under MJ's leadership, the team looked at that and were able to put it into play, and it functioned well. It's a bizarre system.
Yeah. Have you ever sent like a drone down to look at the pipe and make sure it's not cracked? Because it's probably old and concrete and clay or whatever.
Dustin, please tell me you didn't crawl through it.
We actually, good evening, Mayor and Commissioners. We actually did have the opportunity to, we have a stormwater inspector that was able to examine the infrastructure there, and everything still looked good and serviceable. There is a little bit of concern where it comes up into Lake Otis. There is some structure there that may need work. We don't anticipate that this is going to be a system that is used often. Obviously, this is 60 years, and the system was, since it was first installed to now, we needed to use it after Hurricane Ian, but it's nice to have that ability that after a storm passes or in a time of emergency, we could be able to shift that water.
Sure. Great idea. I just don't want it to all of a sudden blow out in 9th Street, all the houses in 9th Street get flooded.
Right.
No, the area where there's questionable is just where it comes into the lake. There's a metal culvert that comes up into the lake, and it's rusted over time. But it was still, we sent a lot of water through it to bring the lake level down, and the system functioned flawlessly.
Perfect. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes, Tracy.
How does it affect, is it Otis? How does it affect that in height or level or?
It didn't affect Lake Otis in level at all because Lake Otis does have a natural outlet, so any water that we put in moved downstream. Now, a good question of something that we look at often is environmental effects from that, like say, what is the quality of water that we're sending from one lake to another? And you guys may have recalled from in the annual lakes report that Lake Elbert has seen some declining trends over the years with the chlorophyll A and phosphorus and nitrogen. However, the water quality it's not impaired. It's still good, and it's actually, the water quality in Lake Elbert is actually better than Lake Otis. I could bore you with micrograms per liter of phosphorus or nitrogen, but one of the principal metrics we use is looking at Secchi disk depth within the lake, which is just a measure of clarity. And generally speaking, the clearer the water is, the better water quality there is. And I looked at our latest records of water clarity of Secchi disk depth. In Lake Otis, it was about 6 feet, or Lake Elbert, it was about 6 feet. And in Lake Otis, it was about half that at 3 feet, which is generally, so the water in Lake Elbert is clear. So if we were to send water from Lake Elbert into Lake Otis, it could actually make some slight improvements to the water quality.
You're saying it's comparable or maybe better?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
And going to get better when we do the the Lake Elbert Trail, because there'll be enhanced stormwater treatment of everything that's going into that lake.
We did the same thing in Dundee, so.
So when you say there's a natural outlet from Otis, is it going from Otis to Roy, or where's it going?
To Merriam?
Yes, I don't know if you can pull up
Link to Merriam. Can you
map
pull that
there.
up, AJ?
So then it goes from Otis to Link to Merriam?
Otis to Link to Merriam, and then from Merriam, it would go out through the drainage system that ultimately ties in with the Peace Creek Drainage Canal system.
That's correct.
Up through the north. So it's safe to say that the work we're doing on Lake Elbert will have a lasting impact on the Gulf of Mexico, since we are the official headwaters of the Gulf of Mexico.
Should be some grant money out there for it.
There should be. Maybe some property rights. Yeah, if you just pull that up just a hair, there you go. So you can see Lake Otis would flow into Little Lake Otis.
Or the link.
Or in the link, I'm sorry, that's immediately to the right. And then,
Into Lake Merriam, further off to the east.
Like, how's it getting to Lake Merriam? That's what I'm trying to.
Magic pipe.
There, yes.
Well, it's natural. He said it was natural.
Well, I'm talking the downstream progression of it from Merriam down, natural in the sense that it finds its way to the Gulf of Mexico. A lot of our lakes here are connected, that you don't realize, the Lake Silver right down the hill here, you don't see a connection to it, but it goes over to Lake Martha.
So there is a pipe then from Link to Merriam?
Yes.
Okay. And it's just set, it doesn't need a pump, it just, once it gets to a certain level.
Yes, that's
it starts to
gravity.
fill off.
Gravity is able to do that. Just in this case, it cannot, the gravity, there's not much elevation difference between Elbert and Otis.
the other thing with the Elbert project, Commissioner Yates, is for that lake to get to a point where it could naturally flow without being pumped, would have significant impact on surrounding land uses because the lake would have to be so high just to get into that system.
Yeah, I just remember growing up around that lake. I can remember the green stuff that was out in the middle that was thick. Does anybody remember that?
Hyacinths or
No,
hydrilla?
it was like
On Otis?
on Elbert. It was
Hydrilla?
no, it wasn't it was algae. Yeah, it was.
I always remember Lake Elbert being one of the cleanest lakes around. You could always see the bottom. I
That
just
was,
remember it being real.
you go further back than I do.
Every 30 years it changes.
In the
back in the day.
90s, it wasn't as good.
Matt, you want to weigh in?
I can remember that wasn't even a lake.
So I can't wait.
I remember the lake was formed. Just teasing. Okay, what are we at?
13A.
13A, yeah.
This is a amendment to a PUD. Eric, you want to, this is relatively simple. It's an existing development that's just being completed.
Yes, sir. Mayor, Commissioners, this is an amendment to an existing PUD, PUD 02123. So this is at the corner of 21st Street and Havendale, the commercial portion of this PUD. We are amending the PUD to allow all C3 uses with the exception of the sales, repairs, and servicing of automobiles, boats, and/or recreational vehicles, nurseries, cemeteries, and standalone parking lot. We're also amending it to require special use approval for drive-through facilities and banquet halls. The only other change is to allow building signage on any frontage of the building. If you have seen these new retail buildings, they do have rear access. And so the owner would like to be able to put some signage on the rear access doors of the buildings. Our code requires them on the front. Doesn't increase the amount of signage, it just gives them the ability to put some on the back, should the tenant desire to do that.
And these are fully constructed?
They are constructed.
As of now?
Yes, sir, they've been.
These are already done.
They're done. They've been constructed, they've been CO'd. A few tenants have moved in. Yes, sir.
That is a big project out there. I mean, they spent some jack at that place.
The 13B, Sean Byers can speak to this if need be. This is adopting the 5-year schedule of capital improvements as part of the comprehensive plan. So it includes years 2023-24 through 2027-28. So this is something you see annually come before you.
Any questions on that, Commissioners? 13B, 13C?
13C, this should look familiar to you. This was the first of two ordinances that you saw, I want to say in July, August, that we ended up pulling because of the Senate bill, change in Florida laws that limited us because of impacts of Hurricane Ian. And what we could do, we were within that 100-mile radius of landfall. Well, that law was amended and modified during a special session in November, and we are no longer within that area of impact. So we're able to bring this back to you. We actually took it back through the Planning Commission as well, just as a belt and suspenders approach. But this amends and modifies what is allowed by permitted right or special use or not permitted within the C1 zoning district. And as you can see from the table, the changes that are noted there, some of the things that were special use prior, such as a funeral home, funeral homes and mortuaries will no longer be permitted. The artisan production, which was a special use prior, that will be just permitted by right now without having to go through special use. Package stores previously were special use, those are now fully permitted. And then child care facilities and assisted living facilities, those were both permitted. Now child care facilities will go through a special use process. The assisted living facilities will not be permitted within the C1. If they require special use, which is the case for like the child care facility going forward, that will be reviewed by the Planning Commission to consider what impacts they have, and if there's any additional requirements they want to place on that. And those that are existing, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, those that are operating as such today remain as such. It would be if there was a stoppage in use for a period of time, or if somebody wanted to develop a new one that is not permitted, they would not be allowed to do so.
Correct. They'd be considered legal non-conforming. They'd be allowed to continue to operate by right until they close their doors. And to my knowledge, there's only one use that would become non-conforming, and that is the funeral home mortuary that was approved, I think, 6-7 months ago at the corner of First Street and Avenue. What is it, Bates?
Bates Avenue.
Bates. That would be the only one rendered legal non-conforming.
Yeah. Quick question, when you say that, when they close the doors, but if another entity were to acquire, like, let's say, for example, just pick that funeral home, if another funeral home were to buy that funeral home and want to operate it, do they stay within that, or they have to go back, and does the new owner have to reapply?
That would be if they cease operation for 180 days. Otherwise, they could sell the business to another.
They could pick up the next
Correct.
day and continue to run and not have to go?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Good? I was gonna sneeze, but never mind.
Eric, for clarification on that, is that only if they buy that existing business? If that mortuary closed and put the building up for sale and another funeral care entity came along and bought it 60 days later, are they allowed to operate it as such?
Yes, sir.
So they don't have to buy the exact business, but if another funeral home mortuary came in within that 180 days, or 180, 120? 180, right? 100, so 6 months, they could start up.
Okay. You good?
And then the other one, same situation, this 2404, this was the other one that we brought forward to you that we did not take to second reading because of that state law. We've taken this also back through Planning Commission, so it's up for first read with you all. This amends what's required of banquet halls. They had previously been permitted by right within certain areas. So if they were within 150 feet or more than 150 feet from certain zoning areas, or within a shopping center, they were permitted by right. If they were located within 150 feet of certain zoning districts and not inside of a shopping center, they were required to have a special use review by the Planning Commission. Well, as you know, we've had a lot of problems with banquet halls operating almost the same as nightclubs. We require nightclubs to go through a process to safeguard patrons as well as the surrounding community. This will put those same requirements upon our banquet halls. So you can see the approval required is a special use, whether they are more than 150 feet from those zoning categories or within a shopping center. And if they are within 150 feet, if within a shopping center, they still require special use. We will not permit banquet halls when they are within 150 feet from those noted zoning districts and not within a shopping center. And I don't know that we have any that fall within that. Do you know, Eric?
I don't believe so. Yeah, I don't believe so.
Anything that we have today that is operating will be allowed to continue. So all legally established banquet halls presently operating will be allowed to continue operating after this is passed, if it is passed. However, if they expand or if there's a cessation of the use that would require the pre-existing banquet hall to apply for the special use. Basically gives us a chance to look at the security plan, put the same conditions we would for a nightclub in there.
Okay. Questions, comments? Okay, so, any new business? I did, before you got something, Brian?
I was just saying, did we want to, we kind of skipped over the liaison
Yeah, I was
didn't know if we wanted to
just
talk
getting ready to
about
bring that up.
tonight, or, okay.
We have to clear up some space for our new friend here and our new commissioner.
He's getting a lot of this stuff, I think.
So, I guess what I thought we would do, commissioners, is look at the ones that we're already signed up for and see which ones we're willing to part with and which ones we really want to keep. And, of course, we were covering for JP, like, for example, the Airport Advisory Committee. Tracy's down there, but I've been covering it, but I need to give that up because that's the exact same time as my TDC meeting. So, and also the Winter Haven Housing Authority has got my name on it, but I've not been to one meeting. I don't think they've had a meeting, and I feel a little guilty, and I'm thinking maybe somebody else would do a better job.
And Mayor, if I could interrupt just real quick for the benefit of the commission, if you go into your agenda under section 10I, the liaison reassignments is noted there. The attachment does have that list in there if you don't have a copy of that, so. Okay.
Yeah. 10I?
10I should say liaison, and there should be a full list of.
And so, and one other item, the TPO has 3 seats now, so that.
Well, let me, just for clarification.
Well, it's got to go to the state.
They have not approved the 3rd seat yet. The TPO has that going forward, but my understanding is that has to go through a couple more hurdles, one being a final approval by the governor's office, and so that appointment of a 3rd seat won't happen until sometime late spring 24.
But the,
Go ahead.
I was going to say the alternate could ultimately be the third person.
Right. So as it stands right now, the Airport Advisory Committee and the Winter Haven Housing Authority liaison are both open. Does anybody else want to give anyone up or switch to something else? This is a good time to talk about it. Tracy?
I was going to go for the alternate on the Polk Regional Planning and on the League of Cities, I guess. But I'll have some to give up too.
So you mean the TPO?
I mean the TPO, yeah.
Well, there's two. There's the TPO and then there's originally. Which one did you mean?
She said both.
Oh, you want both of them? Do you want to give up anything?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
All right.
Better be careful. You better learn now. As soon as people,
I could do the airport if Tracy didn't want the airport, but
All
if you
right.
want the airport, you're welcome to keep it.
You can take it, I'll take 2 of
Okay.
these 2.
Unless anybody else wants it.
but we need to find some places for our new commissioner here.
Well, I was going to suggest maybe the planning.
Oh, great.
Planning Commission
How you feel about that?
liaison.
That's one of the most important ones.
Yeah, I've been on the planning before.
Yeah.
But I was, that's fine.
You want to take that one on?
Yeah, that'd be
Okay.
fine.
And Brian, you'll take the airport?
Yes.
Is there anything else? Bev, that you want to get, that you like, that you can, Mayor Pro Tem, you got anything you want to give up, or?
I was just looking,
What about Housing Authority? I haven't been able to get that off the ground.
I don't have that.
No, I'm throwing that out there for anybody that might want to try to take it and get it off the ground, because I haven't been able to get it to move.
When is their meeting?
I've never been to a meeting. I don't even know when they have them.
I have a session scheduled or pending being scheduled with Lisa Watkins, just to get an update on some stuff with the Winter Haven Housing Authority Board and how all that is functioning right now. So I'll be able to report back to you before too awful long.
I've never, ever been invited to a meeting.
I have some, if you want me to list some of the ones that I'm on, if somebody wants to choose some of those. I have affordable housing. I also have the firefighters and the police pension. I have the library board. I have risk management. I have the smart city advisory, urban forestry. I think that's
How often does your affordable housing meeting meet?
monthly,
The night or the daytime?
Daytime.
yeah, during the day.
During the day?
It's like 10 o'clock at 10 or 11 in the morning, I think.
Eric, do you know Affordable Housing Advisory Committee, their meeting schedule?
I'd have to check with Diane. The last time they met was.
They were meeting at
in
like
the-
late afternoon.
Was in the late afternoon.
Yeah.
It
Well,
changed
you
then.
have two of them. You have some of that with the city, but you have one that is like, sort of like countywide kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. There's a more.
Wait, so there's two committees?
it's-
Are you referring to the affordable housing meeting that Hartford Winter Haven and Brad Beatty?
There's that one, and
Yeah.
then, yeah, there's that one, and then there's the other one too, so.
The mayor wanted 100,000 trees. Did you want the urban forestry?
Yeah, I'll take that. Hey, that's good. Yeah, let me do that one.
Not to give away your, maybe you really like that one.
Absolutely. I
don't
was
know.
going to do that affordable housing, but I don't want two more meetings.
Yes.
Has anybody signed up for Winter Haven Housing Authority? We'll give it to the new guy. No, I'm just teasing.
They don't have board too.
We'll figure it out.
I mean, if you've been on that board before.
Brian, Nat, you got anything you want to give up or add?
Nope, I'm good.
I understand the commission, Mayor Pro Tem Birdsong has recently been appointed the prestigious role of as chair of the Central Florida Regional Planning Council.
Yep.
Busy guy. Okay, anything else, Commission, or I guess we'll deal with this on Monday night?
One other item, we've got a January 17th agenda review, and that's on the eve of Tallahassee, so.
That was one of the items I had on my report for this evening. That is a travel day for the commission's members that are going to Polk County Day in Tallahassee for our legislative efforts. So, couple options that are there, consistent with what we've done in the past. Could look to move that meeting to the Tuesday evening prior, which would be Tuesday, January 16th. It could be held during the day on Wednesday, January 17th, which we have done in the past as a,
In the
quick-
morning, usually about
Yeah.
10, right?
Yes, sir. Or it could just be canceled.
I would vote for Tuesday.
Can staff be ready by Tuesday, you think?
Absolutely, we will be,
We
sir.
can have an agenda ready by Tuesday. I'd rather do it on Tuesday as well.
We will make that so.
5 o'clock. That way we don't hear too late. Is that okay with you guys?
So we would just move it from 5:30 on Wednesday to 5 o'clock on Tuesday?
Yeah.
That'll work.
5 o'clock, okay.
And then, Commissioners, I have one other thing, if I may.
Yes.
Let you know that on Tuesday, January 9th, we will launch our new website. We're going to do this as a soft launch because, as I understand it, the way that that launch happens, we have a specific time that it goes live, but based upon how servers work and the internet and all these things that are way outside of my age bracket, the timing of when you may log into the website and see the new page versus the old page could be anywhere from immediately when it's launched to 24 hours later. But that will go live on Tuesday the 9th. So if you happen to log into the city's website, it may look different. We will be doing a full presentation to you at your second meeting in January. Katrina Hill will walk you through that and show you where everything is in it. Our staff has been, under her leadership, have been working on this for the past several months. It is a much more user-friendly and functional website that I think everybody will be extremely pleased with how it operates.
Okay, all right, perfect. Anything else for the good of the order? All right, we will see you Monday night. We are adjourned.